Hi, welcome to another episode of She Builds. We're here at the Women of the Cloud Summit in New York City. The She Builds program is a skill development program aimed to close the cloud skill gap and help women or those who identify as women to advance in their careers, whether it's in technology or in business. I'm here with Candice, my co-host. My name is Andrea, and I'm very pleased to be here with two lovely guests. Thank you for being here. Ernest Jones, you're a director at AWS representing the sales team for US East.
Yes.
And I'm here with Swati Karkun, who is the SVP for NBCU. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
We're ecstatic.
Awesome. So just starting the conversation, we're going to talk about diversity and inclusion. This is the theme of the conversation. So maybe Swati, I start with you. What inspired you to or motivated you to join us here?
I'm very passionate about diversity and inclusion in all fields, especially tech, because it's a poorly represented community. I'm one of the lucky ones, one of the lucky women in tech, and I feel like there need to be more of us, and for that, people need to see representation. So super excited to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you. And what about you?
Listen, I'm a huge ally. This is an event that I've promoted and supported for several years, certainly since I've joined AWS. And my motivation comes from my wife, who's in the tech field as a surgeon who operates on the Da Vinci robot. And she tells me every day how important it is for women to code and women to be a part of the STEM community. So happy to be here.
Wonderful. And a little bit about your roles, your SVP. Tell us a little bit more about what's your main responsibility.
Yeah, so I'm SVP of Product and Strategy for the NBCU News Group, which kind of spans across NBC News, MSNBC, and CNBC across broadcast, cable, and streaming and digital. So basically looking at the product and strategy for the whole group. My job is to innovate. My job is to stay ahead of the competition. My job is to make sure that we don't become dinosaurs. So super excited to be working with AWS and all the new tech companies to make us more competitive.
Oh, wonderful. Same question for you, Ernest.
Well, look, I'm customer obsessed. So first and foremost, helping NBC Universal perform at a high standard is certainly ultimately my goal, along with all of the other customers that I have an opportunity to work with on a day-to-day basis. And technology as a whole, being responsible, mature person and company that perpetuates technology, not only today, but certainly well into the future.
Nice. So that leads us right into, some more of this inclusion discussion. How do you think technology can actually be used to help create a more inclusive environment that's kind of address some of these social inequalities that we sometimes see?
Who wants to go first? You want me to go?
You go first. Yes.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you for the question. It's important for us to adopt and utilize technology in a way in which technology trains the trainer, if you will, right? So the way I look at technology is in order to enable and deploy and develop people, starting with certainly the youth of today, and getting them comfortable with technology and into coding and into things that haven't seemed from a societal standpoint as sexy as maybe sports and entertainment may be. I think it gives a great foray into STEM and technology as a platform for them to grow and build significant careers. And once they find out how fun tech is, I think it's something that it lasts for a lifetime.
I think for us, I'm in entertainment, news, analytics, right? So analytics we have the greatest reach in the world as a streaming organization now for news. And when you kind of think about the kind of demos we're reaching, and you look at analytics, I think technology is helping us see who we reach and who we don't and how we reach them. So I think that's just like one of the million ways that you can use technology to make us more diverse as a company and as an industry. But it's kind of the chicken and the egg, right? It's also, everybody's growing up with, technology has become more tangible for everybody, irrespective of demo. So I think that makes it more, we are evangelizing as we're making them tangible.
So talking about technology, I wanted to touch a little bit on the subject of generative AI, artificial intelligence. And maybe wanted to get your thoughts, Swati, maybe first. How do we remove biases from using that type of technology today? What are some methods maybe that you've seen or maybe explored?
I think it goes back to the same, the team that's working with generative AI needs to be diverse, right? So if you have a very kind of single dimensional team working with Gen AI, whether it's building it or making it usable in the business, which is what I do, you need to have a team that kind of cuts across not just, genders, but, every kind of demo. Besides that, I think you make it unbiased by really looking at, for example, I'm going to speak about my industry. There's a big kind of push for making sure that attribution and voice is given, right? So we're journalists and credibility is everything. So if when you're using generative AI, you got to make sure that the right people are getting attributed to, getting attribution, and are being able to be heard. So those are a couple of different ways that we are kind of thinking about, but lots more to go. Because to me, technology is the easy part. It's the adoption and the way you roll it out, which is difficult in a very meaningful, unbiased way.
Yeah, absolutely. And would Ernest love to get your take on it.
Yeah, so listen, we're at the infancy stage of generative AI. And if we think of generative AI in the form of diversity, I'll use a moniker that I take to my team and my organization often, which is be able to show up as your true authentic self every day. So when you think about generative AI, I think about the authenticity of the data set. It starts around the data platform. It starts with the data. So the integrity of the data is of paramount importance, and the governance of the data and what we all use that data for, and the responsibility that we have while using the data. So if we think about it initially along those terms and make sure that everything we do is based on authenticity, I think we've got a great shot of doing special things, innovative things, thinking big around generative AI. It's become cliche here in the last few months. And I think what's important is as it continues to manifest itself, and we venture down the road with generative AI, as Adam Selipsky, I think, said, we're into 3 steps of a 5K here around generative AI. It's important for us to maintain authenticity and security around the basic data platform. If we do that, we've got a good shot of doing some positive things with it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's go a little bit deeper on that Gen AI thing, and let's talk about the data. How do you think data is going to change the world around us?
Well, the data hasn't changed, right? So the data is not going to change. It's a matter of the data sets that we actually use and engage around, and again, our ability to keep those secure and provide governance around the data. And I think what we've seen early on in its infancy around Gen AI is people, and I'll use certain examples, some that obviously are ahead of class in the entertainment space, is generative AI creation around music and entertainment and utilizing voices that are not authentic, as I just mentioned. So as long as we remain that we add the governance and we have the fidelity around the data sets that we use in Gen AI, I think that's going to be an important part of the go-to-market motion as the product and the offerings continually develop over time.
To me, data is key. Obviously, we've been saying that for 20 years, right? To collecting a lot of data. I think. Exactly. But I think it's how we look at data and really find meaning from it. And I'm just not kind of saying corny stuff, even though it sounds corny. It also means, a big problem in our industry is content verification, right? Yeah. So how do we identify deepfakes? How do we identify, real Reuters feeds from like fake ones, right? So the data is actually powering the generative AI to actually counter another generative AI tool that's bringing in the deepfakes, right? So there's a lot of new meaning to all the data that we've collected. So it's the it's much more fine-tuned analysis that we can do with all the AI. I feel like we didn't use data enough. Every day we learn more ways of improving discoverability, improving content with data.
Yeah. All right. So just talking about sort of navigating the world, the male-dominated world as a woman, and being sort of a leader in a large organization. Can you maybe share your thoughts on maybe some barriers and blockers that women are still facing in today's environment? What do you see?
Yeah, I think that there are a couple of different things, right? So you start with, it's women, girls, again, not to stereotype, but they want to socially fit in, right? It's not cool to be doing math and doing engineering when you're a child, right? So we got to get rid of those, stereotypes, right, from the start. I think there are many more women in STEM now, but still not as cool as some of the other, being in music and being a pop star, right? So that's the first part. Then you join the world, you join the industry, and then we're always talking about you have to network, you have to be the loudest person in the room. And we are always rewarding people who are the loudest and who network well. You got to get rid of that, right? You got to be able to, as leaders, it's the onus is on you to identify the quietest people in the room who bring value, who are not networking, who just believe in meritocracy, right? We got it wrong, right? We're just rewarding behavior that has typically been associated with men. Thirdly, for those who choose to have a family, we got to do better with the work-life balance, right? We are much, much better after COVID, but we have to keep going. And I think the fourth one that a lot of us have seen over time is to really not reward clicks, right? There'll be clicks in terms of, men going out for drinks. This is still there in the industry, or going out for golf, or, things that are, again, traditionally associated with, being in a male-dominated industry. We gotta, again, the responsibility is on the leadership to reward that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. As an ally, Ernest, I ask you the same question.
Agreed. How about that? And based on where we are and the time that we have been allotted, I think that was very well said.
Okay, awesome, great. I think, thank you so much for being here with us today, taking the time. I know you're very busy, and I would love to obviously have you back on the show in the future as
Happy
well.
to.
Awesome, and thank you so much for watching an episode of She Builds.